looking at? It's Thursday night. We're here, you're here, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Good evening, everybody. Bill Smith alongside Dan Davidson for Thursday Night Geeks, presented by Fansets. Dan, buddy, it's been a little while since I've talked to you. I was traveling for work last week. How you been?
Yep. I'm good. Missed you. It's weird. Thursday night at 8 o'clock. I'm like, shouldn't I be doing something? Wasn't able to do that last week, but glad we're here to get it back up started again. Thursday Night Geeks has been a lot of fun so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing the tradition tonight because it really kind of has become a tradition, Bill.
And that's what we're aiming for. This is sort of must-see Trek TV in a way, if you think about it. Tonight we have a topic that you were not psyched to do.
No.
We'll state that in all candor. You've been avoiding this topic like the plague. And finally I said, you're fired if you don't do that. Actually, I didn't say that because I don't have that power. No. But we have a topic tonight that is kind of occupying a lot of people's gray matter. And we thought it would be good to just address it head on.
Yeah, you're right. It was something I have not been looking forward to talking about for a couple of reasons, and we'll get into the reasons when we really start our discussion. But over the course of a while now, I mean, we talked about has Star Trek passed us by a couple of weeks ago. So tonight we're going to talk about, is Star Trek really dying? Because there has been some talk about that out in the internets, webs, Twitter, X, bullshit places and stuff like that. So we're gonna tackle it head on tonight, and yeah, it's a topic that I get very stressed out and tense thinking about, and I have a feeling that some of that's going to come out a little bit tonight as we're talking.
And I think that's okay. I think that's okay. What I want people to know is that this is not going to be a let's bitch about things kind of situation. We will be honest in our assessment and our critique. We're not going to pull punches. But that doesn't mean that we've become, sort of anti-Star Trek or anti-franchise. I think it's appropriate to address some of the comments that have been made and put them into context. And that's what we're going to try to do tonight. So for anyone worried that we're going to unload and become gatekeepers, that's just not the case.
No, and that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure everybody realized when we got into this topic tonight. And I said it to you, and it's one of the first things I'll say. One of my concerns was, and I mentioned it a moment ago, just a few weeks ago, has Star Trek passed us by? And I said to you, I said, do we really want to talk about this topic so close to that? Because even though we are saying it 1,000 times that we are not bashing, we are not gatekeeping, there are going to be people that are going to think that that's exactly what we're doing, even though we are profoundly saying we're not. So it was kind of a concern that I had, but you're right. You talked to me about a couple of things. It's like, we have always had discussions about what the current state of Star Trek is. So we're going to do that. And we're doing it with this whole kind of umbrella over what you showed in our intro. Is Star Trek really dying? And we'll get into the reason why we're using that particular quote as we get into the discussion. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We have always been very truthful about our critiques and our praises for what's going on with the Star Trek universe. And right now, with the way things are and things that I've read, it's got me really, really revved up.
Well, I can tell you that what else has me revved up is the fact that my blood alcohol content is really low. So let's get to the what are you drinking part. And while you're telling us about what you're drinking, I'm going to work here with a prop if you don't mind.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, but my drink did not come out as I wanted it to. I do have it in my nice Star Trek Romulan wine glass. It's not wine. I was at the liquor store this afternoon when I was picking up dinner. Not at the liquor store, but I stopped at the liquor store on
You
the
can't
way
prove that.
and got some new tequila, which is a jalapeno lime infused tequila. So I'm like, all right, as he pours, look at that beautifulness. So I was going to make a great margarita. I got home, opened up the poured my tequila, opened up the fridge, and I had about an eighth of an inch of margarita mix left.
Oh no.
And I was like, son of a bitch. So this is a lot of tequila, a little bit of margarita mix, and a ton of cranberry juice with a special lime pepper rim around the glass.
Well, Slange, I am drinking. How's your father? I am drinking the best pre-made espresso martini I have ever had. As I take a sip, this is actually something we ordered online.
Okay.
Night Parker, who is a famous fashion photographer, he was a judge on America's Next Top Model for years, has his own espresso martini in a box. Now, I used to mock this before I tried it, but it is, you know me, I've had a lot of espresso martinis. When we go to Vegas, I drink a lot of them. When you and I have gone out for dinner or whatever, I'm always having an espresso martini. This is by far one of the best I've ever had, made in front of me or pre-made. It is that good. So that is what I am drinking tonight.
I don't think I've made you my espresso martini yet, my friend.
I don't think you have. I'm a little far away for you to do that now.
You're going to have to come over here, drive your way on up to New Hampshire and make you espresso martini.
Wait, no, we're not past 10 minutes. Screw you. You can come down here and see the house. By the way, as we catch up, it was 1 year ago yesterday that we signed the papers closing on this house in North Carolina.
That's amazing. A year
already.
Yep. That is incredible. And I think today or tomorrow is our 1 year anniversary of getting Miley rescuing us.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It was right around this time last year. I want to say it was the 28th. But I'll have to double check my Facebook feed. But yeah, Trek headquarters South.
That's right. This is the Southern Command for Trek Geeks.
Yes, I do like that. All right, Ross, you talked me into it. I'll be down tomorrow.
Yeah, Ross will even come down. So, and good evening, everybody in the chat. There's Burley. There's oh wow, we got Horizon Brave in the chat. This is amazing. Ross, obviously. Hopefully more to come. I see a bunch of you out there who were just hiding. Ross is off tomorrow, but he's watching basketball tonight, so all bets are off.
That's true.
If you got to bail to watch a game, I understand it is March Madness. So
I don't understand. You stay right here.
Hey! We love the people who support us, especially when they're bailing on you. So,
truth.
We're going to catch up just a little bit before we move on to is Star Trek really dying. So I did something this week that I never thought I would do, Dan, and I'm going to talk about this openly here. Because this is something that is going on in my life, and we may talk about the progress as things happen for a while.
Okay.
I actually have received a prescription for Zepbound for weight loss injections from my physician, and I actually am buying it directly from the manufacturer. Okay. And even though it's expensive, not as expensive as the pen, I will be starting that process for the next year as a part of my my regimen to be healthier and to feel better. Nice. So I never thought I would be in this position, but I took a step back and said, I've been using medicine to help with my mental health. Why am I not using medicine to help with the hardest thing I've ever tried to do year after year after year after year? And this help exists. Why am I not taking advantage of it? So that's what I'm doing. So in a few days, I will start my first injection of Zepbound, and I will continue on for the next 52 weeks.
Nice. Curious, because unfortunately we see it with commercials all the time. What type of side effects does this kind of thing possibly have for you? Do you know?
there's the possibility of a great number of things, including, massive, massive diarrhea. No, but
No
it's
different than any normal day, right?
that's the thing with any drug you take these days, they always give you the worst side effects on TV.
Yeah.
I have to believe that the benefits are going to outweigh the potential side effects
Mm-hmm.
because the side effect is potentially I become diabetic.
Right.
If that means I have to endure some other stuff to just help me get to where I need to be, because literally I've tried everything under the sun, from herbal remedies to diets to doing keto to you name it, and there's been one thing after another that's forced me to have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the next phase of my existence. So I start this 1 year journey, and hopefully a month from now we'll have a progress photo to show
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
before and after, and we'll talk about it.
Cool. Congratulations, man. I'm glad that you're doing this. You seem excited about it, and I'm sure the results will be good, and I'm sure you'll be happy. And if you're happy, I'm happy, because that means you're not being as much of a dick to me as you usually are. So that's good.
Plus, it means I'm going to take up less space in our hotel room. And Burley's right. You can't fight the genes. I mean, I was
Right.
born a natural O, right? It's. I got to put this comment up because I just read it. Hope it goes well, man. I'm diabetic and take Ozempic. Within over the last 2 years, I've lost close to 250 pounds.
Wow.
It's a slow process. I took years to put it on, so it's not going to come off overnight. Ross, thank you so much for sharing that on a variety of levels. I mean, that's comes from a particularly vulnerable place. I mean, this is one of the last sort of things it's okay to be biased against people for in society. And it is a slow process, and I'm proud of you. That is amazing. Good for you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
hope to be in your club.
Makes me want to get down south a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to see you.
No, to see Ross. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what's going on with me. More details in the weeks ahead, but we're past the 10-minute mark. So let's talk about how shitty things are with Star Trek, huh? We'll come back in a second with Is Star Trek Dying? Stay right there. Change worked for you. Yeah. Oh, that was quick.
Bang.
Bang. I was talking to Garcia on the IFB, and all of a sudden I was caught with a live mic. Unfortunately, we haven't invited anybody from the Department of Defense to the chat tonight accidentally, so don't worry. Oh, good to know. When you change scenes, it stops the transition. So,
all right.
It's a learning process in a live show. So
that's right. Absolutely.
Dan, let's take on the question of the hour, which is Star Trek really dying? And we emphasize the really because I don't think that either of us really thinks it is. Is that a fair statement?
No, it's not. It's not. It really isn't. Are there things that we're going to talk about that are not great right now? Yeah. Is it dying? No. I think after how many? What's the anniversary of the year?
59.
59.
Yep.
It's not going to. It's never going to. It will never be dead. There's no way it ever will be. But there are things going on that have been going on recently and in the recent past that make you kind of scratch your head and wonder what the hell who's making these decisions lately. No, I agree. It is not dying. It is not dying. Let's make that very, very blunt. Not dying.
In fact, let's do this. Let's create a banner.
Star Trek is not dying.
That's exactly what it is. And we're gonna just let that scroll across the bottom.
I think that's a good idea.
Go.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear about our philosophy and our position. Star Trek not dying. That said, Dan, actor Rob Kaczynski, who played Zeph in the shit show that was Star Trek Section 31, and I use that term shit show very lovingly, gave an interview recently to a podcast that was then picked up by Slash Film and said the following, and I'm going to read the card here that comes up. I spoke to Alex and I spoke to director Olatunde Osunsanmi, and they explained to me that Star Trek is dying. And I don't know if people know that, but I was talking about Star Trek at my gym where I fight. I'm a boxer and I fight with a lot of kids. Well, I don't fight them, I train with them, and none of them knew what Star Trek was. Can you imagine that? I mean, just conceive of that for a second, that they had never I would say Star Trek, and they were like, "Star Wars?" I was like, "No, Star Trek." And they were like, I think I've heard of it." So he says a lot there, but really the key phrase is that Kurtzman and Tunde went to him and essentially said, "Star Trek is dying." If you read the article a little further, it's because Kurtzman believes theoretically a variety of things, and we don't know these to be fact. So we're putting it up on a card with a question mark. According to the article, he thinks the franchise is dated, that younger people want action and modern kids don't want to tune in because it's boring and it's super intelligent and about space stuff. And because of that, it can't capture a modern audience. And again, Star Trek is dying because it's not doing these things, which is the reason why Section 31 was so action packed and really didn't have any story and didn't really talk about the characters because it was created to grab a new audience. I've said a lot there. Let's get your reaction just to Rob Kaczynski's comments, and then we'll talk about Kurtzman.
First of all, no, I hate the phrase, I don't mean any disrespect, but it's going to sound disrespectful. Reading these comments from him, knowing what a dung heap Section 31 was, kind of irritates me. Is it deflecting the fact that it's gotten horrible reviews and has not been popular with the Star Trek audience? He did what he was able to do with what he was given, but he wasn't given much. Nor was anybody in that production. So what he said is kind of irritating, but then to build on it, is he passing the buck by talking about what Kurtzman allegedly said? And if it is true, I got a real freaking problem with Kurtzman right now. I've been one of the people that has stood up for him from the beginning. And I have always had respect for the decisions made for the franchise. There are some storylines that I didn't really love, but hey, it's new Star Trek. It's Star Trek. We love it. If we've got a guy running the show who thinks that it's dying, who thinks that kids don't want to tune into space stuff anymore, which is ridiculous because there's space stuff out there everywhere that people seem to love. And are you saying that the young audience is too stupid to appreciate good storytelling? So you're just going to go for action-packed sequence with flames shooting out of the ground for no reason whatsoever, as we saw in Section 31 several times? One of the things that are being said in this is why I am so aggravated with the topic, because if these things are accurate and it's coming from that specific person, there needs to be a sweeping change of what's going on at that studio to get things back on track.
You're not wrong. And that's really all I can say. We've been defenders of Alex Kurtzman.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since Discovery was announced in 2016, I believe it was, so almost 9 years ago. And ever since it took to the air 8 years ago, you and I have defended every choice that Kurtzman has made and been able to see some logic around it. But this seems like uh, just a pivot and a shift that makes no sense. I mean, let's look at the evidence, right? Star Trek Discovery, insanely popular. Because of it, we get how many new Star Trek shows? We get Picard, we get Lower Decks, we get Prodigy, we get Strange New Worlds, we get the announcement of Starfleet Academy, we get a Section 31 movie, and we get short treks. It spawned 8 different Star Trek titles. More Star Trek is good for fandom, but what about Discovery or Picard or Strange New Worlds gives him the inkling that Star Trek is dying?
Mm-hmm.
If it's dying, that's on him. because he had Prodigy, which was the best way to get kids into this franchise.
Yep.
He has Starfleet Academy, which has yet to air, and is probably a great way to get younger viewers into the franchise. And instead, he goes to, Kaczynski and says, "Well, it's dying." Um, I'm sorry, but screw him.
Yeah, it's very aggravating. It sounds like he's passing the buck, which is what we're seeing everywhere nationally these days. Nobody's taking responsibility for anything, and this is another instance. Star Trek, young people aren't grasping on. Well, Prodigy was pretty effing good, and then you decided to cancel it, and it got picked up by somebody else who at least got to see the second season. So I'm sorry, don't disagree with you there. And is Star Trek really dying, or is Star Trek dying because, I'm sorry, Section 31 has gotten eviscerated pretty much universally? You've gotten a lot of flack for stuff you did on Discovery. And so now are you trying to shift that? Star Trek must be dying because people aren't liking what's coming out anymore, because you're not putting out a good product anymore.
That's really
my
what
concern.
Yeah. And the thing is that, we've had great Star Trek in the last 7 years. You look at season 3 of Picard, you look at the first 2 seasons of Strange New
Yep.
Worlds, you look at seasons of Star Trek Discovery, maybe some of them, not the last couple. Did I say that out loud?
It's all right.
But there has been great Star Trek. I mean, CBS built a streaming empire around Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. It helped bring that streaming service into the mainstream. And the fact is, if he thinks Star Trek is dying, well, you know what, buddy? It happened on your watch.
Exactly. And I'm just going to probably say what I just said, but in a different way. It's aggravating to me that there has been such good Star Trek over the past decade. I loved Picard, especially season 3. I even loved season 2. Season 1, I loved, not as much as the others. Lower Decks, phenomenal. Prodigy, phenomenal. Strange New Worlds has been incredible. And we'll see what Starfleet Academy brings. But now all of a sudden, we're getting these reports of the people way up top making these type of comments. Well, maybe Star Trek is really dying after a calamity that was Section 31. And I keep going back to the fact is this all related as a way to deflect from what really happened with making a bad movie? People may love it, and that's fine. If you love it, you love it. It is lowest on the Star Trek movie meter for a lot of people. And I just have a feeling with everything I've seen recently, with all this negative talk, especially coming from the upper echelon of the Star Trek empire, that they're starting to do this to try to not worry about taking responsibility for putting out a really shitty movie.
Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah, I think the thing that would really annoy me more if I were Alex Kurtzman is that Rob Kaczynski dropped this in an interview. You would think the last thing that he would do is say, "Oh yeah, the guy who's running Star Trek told me the franchise is dying."
Yeah.
Because that's just, I'm sorry, that's poor form. Let's say Kurtzman said it. Let's stipulate that for now. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But the fact is, this has been published and there haven't been any reports to the contrary. So we're kind of forced to believe that it did happen. What a shitty thing for Rob Kaczynski to do to Alex Kurtzman and Olatunde Osunsanmi. To say, yep, yeah, he said it. It's dying. I guess you guys hated Section 31. Too bad. See you later.
Yeah.
It's just, I imagine Rob's not going to work too much for Paramount again. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. But the sense I get is that that's almost like the FU on your way out the door.
Yeah. And it's funny. The more I think and the more I talk about Section 31, the more aggravated I get, because I said it to you, people like Michelle Yeoh and Tunde, he's a phenomenal director. And I felt that even he could not save what this became. After all the hard work that was done by our two favorite writers with Discovery, and the idea that this was going to become its own TV show, and then it all changed, and Kurtzman did this, and Kurtzman changed this, and then it became this movie. that was poorly written, and Bowie and Erica were not involved, from our understanding, to the
Right.
writing of this movie. And a very well-respected director got this and made this, and it's a ding on his resume. I'm sorry to say, because it's not a great film. And for all of this stuff to now be coming out about, oh, well, it's dying, and Kurtzman said this, and kids just aren't really, paying attention to Star Trek anymore. And I'm sorry, I don't know how much faith I put into the comment that he talks about Star Trek and people were not even understanding the two words together.
Right.
That just, I'm sorry. I'm a diehard Star Trek fan. But Star Wars and Star Trek, the two are always intertwined. So for people to say I've never really heard about that, that just doesn't hold water for me.
Here's the thing I can say with all confidence. Star Trek is not dying. And the reason it's not dying is because of you and me and everybody watching tonight and everybody out there in fandom. The reason why Star Trek still is here nearly 60 years later is because of us.
Yeah.
It was fans that kept TOS alive and, got it renewed for season 3. It was fans that, overwhelmingly watched the show in syndication and got movies made. It was fans who kept going to the movies and saying, the studio realizing, I guess people really want to see these. So they kept making more. It was fans that led to the creation of Star Trek: The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise. It was fans that led to Discovery and every show that's come afterward, and not Suits, not the studio. They make things that people want to see. And because Star Trek fans are a very loud and vocal group and large in number, they make Star Trek. So I can assure you, Star Trek is not dying in any way, and it's never gonna die at this rate.
No, it never will. There will, and part of the reason is all the things you just talked about. The fans will never let it die. The studio can do whatever it wants to try to make it die. It will never happen as long as there is the fandom out there, which there always will be, the fandom. So I mean, I just go back to that slide that you showed a little while ago with the question mark with Kurtzman, and every one of those bullet points. I just want to punch each bullet point because they're ludicrous. Younger people don't necessarily want action. That's you trying to make it difficult to make a movie that actually has meaning and depth, and you just want to have slow motion action shots going on. So I'm pinning that right back on the studio. Modern kids do want to tune in. We saw that with Star Trek Prodigy, and then you decided to cancel it for some reason. Thankfully, Netflix picked it up. You can capture a modern audience if you put out a good product. Al, Section 31 is not a good product, so you're not going to capture the modern audience. You can have all the action and anime related stuff and this, that, and the other thing that all the young people today like, but if you still put out a trashy product, it's not going to capture the audience. So yeah, as you can tell, it's aggravating, and it's aggravating because, as you said, we have defended this reign of the people that run Star Trek right now for a long time. And for this to come out so quick and so to the core is just something that obviously you can tell bothers me.
Yeah. Steve brings up a good point here. He says, the only problem I have with your logic is that on one hand, we are getting younger. There's a real need to keep it current with younger people. You're not wrong. And I think, I know you want to do Vegas someday, Steve, but if you ever get the chance to, I think you'll see that this fandom is in really good hands with a younger demographic. Yes, there are older fans of TOS and Next Gen and Deep Space Nine there. But Dan, I think you and I are kind of surprised every year at how that demographic adds more younger people than we thought possible.
Yes. We've seen some of the people showing up with cosplay that are so much younger than we are, and they are loving the franchise just as much as we are and always have. That means that it's going to stick around. But I also think that with what we're seeing at Vegas and what people running the show should see when they're at Vegas and their own conventions around the country are all these young people. So you're insulting them by saying some of the things that you're saying about it, about what you think the state of Star Trek is right now.
Yeah, Smielko says, could they
point.
also be dumbing on Trek as a way to cut costs for a pending Viacom sale? Viacom has always owned Star Trek because Viacom has always owned Paramount through a company called National Amusements. The fact that there's new ownership at Paramount and National Amusements says that there are changes in store, but the guy who's going to be running Paramount was not only a fan of Trek, he was one of the producers of Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond. So I have to believe that he thinks Trek is a viable property. The other thing too is that allegedly, and I don't know how true this is or what the status of the contract is, Kurtzman's contract is allegedly up this year.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are like, well, let Frakes run Star Trek. Frakes doesn't want to or need
Frakes
to run Star Trek.
Do that. Oh my God.
I think what we need is a creative person. Terry Matalas is going to be busy doing the Vision series for Marvel. So I think there will be somebody else out there. If Kurtzman does indeed decide to step down, which honestly, after Section 31 and after this, I kind of hope he does.
Yeah, it's amazing that opinions can change quickly based on stuff that's out there. And I don't want to be a hypocrite because I'm always like, oh, we got to give the person the benefit of the doubt and see what happens. This though just seems different to me. I don't know what it is.
Really?
And I mean, we've talked about, we talked about a couple weeks ago as Star Trek passes by, and I've said that I'm watching the old legacy Trek when I do, because I have not had the want to sit down and watch Star Trek a lot. I'm trying to broaden out a little bit. And then so I have that on my mind, and to tell you how much of a fan I am and that I don't like saying that is I feel guilty when I don't watch Star Trek. That's got to say something. But then Section 31 comes out, then these types of articles come out, the quotes, the insinuation, and it puts a real ugly taste in my mouth.
Our sister Tamia, love you. Brings up a great point.
Just a couple days ago.
Yeah, I think it was. Happy birthday, Tamia.
Happy birthday.
Happy belated. I think the main problem is Paramount still hasn't figured out how to copy the Star Wars merch / promotion machine. That's why Wars has legs. Fact all around.
Boom.
Paramount has never known how to effectively promote Star Trek. Largely because they wanted it to compete with Star Wars in 1979, and there's just no way that was going to happen.
And I will say that's not in any way trying to say anything negative about Van Sitters, because Van Sitters has done a hell of a great job with what he's been able to do over the years with getting some of that merchandise out. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Look at, I use this as an example all the time. Lego. How many Star Wars Lego sets are there that are sold out all the time? You cannot get them anywhere because they know how to merch it. They know how to market it and sell it. So we'll see if the Star Trek one is true, but that Star Wars has been the king of merchandise since the original movie came out.
Yeah, all those Kenner action figures. So
yeah,
there's a lot still to be decided. Is Kurtzman staying? Does Starfleet Academy, signal a shift in the way we're thinking about Star Trek? Will every series after that be changed? Will Strange New Worlds end after season 4 or 5? Because season 4 just started shooting this month. It's really up in the air. But I think the answer to the question is Star Trek really dying? Here's my answer. Fuck no.
No.
It's not. And again, for all the reasons I said, because everybody here, everybody out there, everybody who watches Star Trek and loves it, this thing will never die.
No, it never will.
Unlike your face, which according to the crawl at the bottom of the screen, Dan, is dying.
That. And I was going to say that stream is not entirely factual. My face died a long time ago.
Oh, well, that's true. Your face is like the Keith Richards of faces.
Thank you very much. I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, hey, you're welcome. All right, so we're going to do a little business with America, and then we're going to come back and sort of talk a little more about the state of Star Trek. So stay right there. We're coming right back at you. It's like an 80s club up in here. That was pretty
fun.
rad. Dan, despite the 80s music, we want to take a few minutes, of course, to talk about all the amazing folks at Fansets and to thank them, as always, for being the presenting sponsor of both Trek Geeks and Thursday Night Geeks.
It's pretty awesome having them involved with us because they are absolutely fantastic people, every single one of them. And here we are. It's another week, another moment to thank the best team in the business. You know, Fansets has over 500 officially licensed Star Trek pins. Bill, did you know that?
I did know that, Dan.
Yeah, and they release new ones every single month. And right now there are 2 new pins to add to your collection. So head on over to fansets.com right now and pick up your brand spanking new TMP. That's the motion picture white Command Delta. As I said, I didn't know until Fansets started putting these things out. I never realized that those Deltas had several different colors, but I'm not as smart as everybody else.
I didn't bring up the website because I was so concerned about actually having the copy in front of me to read for once, because Dan Davidson actually did his job.
I did my job correctly, and I gave you permissions.
I did my job. I do it again. Let me share my screen.
I'll just keep talking about how awesome that is until you're able to bring up the website and show everybody this awesome. Now I'm looking at my collection right now. I got the red one and I've got the orange one. I didn't even realize there was an orange in Star Trek anywhere. So that's kind of cool because orange is my favorite color. So look at that.
One you were talking about, right? The white.
That's beautiful. Yeah, the white Command one. And of course, as with all of Fansets Deltas, that is available in both pin and magnet form. And also available now this week at fansets.com is good old Boimler from Lower Decks. But look at this. He's in his fancy schmancy Titan uniform way up at the top. It should be very top of the page there, Bill. Should you be able to see it? Very,
if you
very
look at the
nice,
screen, you'd think it's there.
I was looking at the delayed one, but look at him. Purple hair, Titan outfit, all right now available over at fansets.com. 2 pins for you to pick up right now, Bill.
2 pins. Dos pinos. Is that how it's said?
Yeah.
And I'm vamping until I get back to the copy. Of course, Dan, those new pins are awesome. Of course, you heard him. I mean, get on over to fansets.com. Get that TMP pin and that Boimler pin and every other pin you saw on the page. Put them in your cart. Notice that. Put them in your cart. And then, of course, at checkout, be sure to enter the special discount code Trek Geeks for 10% off your entire order. That's Trek Geeks with all capital letters and no spaces for 10% off. And of course, don't forget, when you spend more than $30 on fansets.com, you automatically get free shipping in the United States.
That's just fantastic, Bill. It's fantastic. Fansets, their pins, they have character. And we want to thank our friends at Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of Thursday Night Geeks.
Oh, God.
I'm glad I can make you laugh every once in a while.
You have issues. That might be the martinis, too, by the way. I'm almost to the bottom of this one. That's my second.
I got to catch up. I still got half a glass. There we go.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot of whatchamacallit juice. Cranberry.
There you go.
Yeah. Dan, we love to talk about our friend JC at Kryptonite Creations.
Yes, we do.
So many fantastic 3D printed things. If you always wanted to get into 3D printing, but don't have the money to spend on a printer or the supplies or the time to maintain it, the answer is simple. Get on over to kryptonitecreations.myshopify.com and take a look at the stuff that JC has, like this first contact phaser, or like Dan's Discovery Type 2 phaser. I love that thing. And of course, there's also the TNG tricorder.
Yeah, which looks the buttons on that thing.
I don't know, right?
In here.
That's in your head.
That's in your head.
Sorry. It obviously closes. So, I mean, if you want to put this in a little holster on your belt for a little cosplay, you certainly can do it. But, and of course, I've got this TMP phaser right over here on my shelf behind me.
Yeah.
Just some great stuff. And affordable, Dan. This stuff is cheap by comparison.
Yeah, it's really, and the detail's amazing. I mean, look at that. You get the Discovery logo right at the top of the phaser. You got the notches in the hand and the trigger. I mean, I can just point it right at you right now. Just like I can see the beams of energy. Look at that. It's just awesome. Very sturdy, very solid. Look at that. I'm not going to hit them with this noggin.
And the wheel spins.
I did not know that. It does.
Yeah.
It was. Look at that. So yeah, affordable. I mean, you can wear this as cosplay. I mean, it's awesome. And JC's just one hell of a nice guy too. So you're also doing business with a small business owner and getting some great product at the same time.
You really are, and that's really the best thing. I mean, you're helping, a guy who lives in his house and is, taking care of his family, which is the best part of it all. It's not going to some soulless corporation in New York
Mm.
City. Not that there's anything wrong with New York City, aside from obviously their baseball team. Sorry, Yvette. That's going to earn a comment because I know she's in the
Yeah.
comment stream. By the way, go Sox 5-2 against the Rangers.
Yes, right. One undefeated.
Undefeated.
Jason Marks knows that.
Is there a Trek Geeks discount for Kryptonite Creations? There is not. But JC stuff is so affordable, you almost don't need it, which is great.
There you go.
Oh,
best one of the night right there.
That really is. How did the Yankees do today? Did they win?
I have no idea because
who cares? Because Red Sox, baby. But that's heading over to CJC stuff. KryptoniteCreations.myshopify.com. That's KryptoniteCreations.myshopify.com, and we'll be right back. Y'all missed it during the break. I was doing the robot. It was fantastic.
I just love that transition with the little.
Dan, let's talk a little bit about the state of Star Trek. We've talked about so kind of the Kurtzman angle, but let's talk about the franchise and the shows proper. In years past, we've been able to come out here at the beginning of the year and talk about Star Trek and say the state of the franchise is strong. And I put this to you now, unprompted. You had no idea I was going to ask this. Do you still feel that way about the franchise? Is it still strong?
I don't know if strong is the right word. It is still viable. It is still important. And I'm talking just from the notion that right now we only have Strange New Worlds, which isn't out yet, and Starfleet Academy, which hasn't premiered yet. We don't have anything really in the mix right now to look forward to right now, other than those two things. And that maybe is a negative thing of what happened a few years back when we had so much to look forward to. And that does concern me, that if there is any reason for Star Trek to be dying, which it's not, is because the decisions that have been made to not put out as much relevant Trek. That's right. I'm talking to you, Section 31. Could be making it seem that Trek is not strong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. When you think about the fact that it has been 9 years since Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, consider that. Almost a full decade with no films. And when you think about the fact that we've been teased about Strange New World season 3 for at least the last year and a half. When you think about the fact that we have no premiere date for Starfleet Academy, I can't really say that the franchise is strong anymore. In fact, I kind of have to go back to the word that Willow uses, and that's enduring. I think that the popularity that Star Trek has now, the fandom that Star Trek has now, is because of the people who love it, and not necessarily because of what's actively being produced or shown. And that kills me. I mean, if you think about it, the closest thing we've had to a movie in almost a decade was Putrid. The last season of Discovery was a little lackluster, in my opinion. Lower Decks, which was immensely popular and much cheaper to produce, was
Another
canceled
stupid
after
example.
5 seasons. Another
Yep.
stupid example.
Yep.
I feel like the people who are in charge, or at least in the stewardship of Star Trek right now, are making mistake after mistake after mistake, and I feel like we're very close to the 2005, what Larry Nemeczek, our dear friend,
Yep.
likes to call the fallow times, or the dark times, where there was no new Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say what could be taken as controversial and people might get mad at me, and I hope I'm proven wrong someday, but I know that you've had predictions like this that have come true. I'm going to say this. If there's any Star Trek dying anywhere, I think a movie is dead. I'm not counting Section 31 as a movie because
No.
it just was awful. I'm talking about getting in your car, driving to the movie theater to see a real budgeted for the big screen movie. I don't think we're ever going to see another Star Trek one, at least not with anybody who's currently involved with any of the studios.
No, because with the number of views that Section 31 has gotten, despite how bad it is, they've essentially made the case that they can create a movie on a TV budget and make it big and make it a spectacle, and that's really about all they've proven. I
Yep.
don't think that a Star Trek feature film is really ever gonna happen again.
And that's really disappointing. I remember I will never forget the excitement that we had in 2009
Yeah.
with the reboot. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just that excitement for that coming back to the big screen. Saw it in IMAX, and the first scene, you get the whole first scene, and then it's the fade to black, and then I want to say granite looking Delta comes shining on screen. I was crying at the movie theater at that point, 3 minutes into the movie.
That first 11 minutes with the Kelvin is some of the best Star Trek ever put to film.
Yep.
Because it's exciting, it's fast paced, but it's emotional as all hell.
Yeah.
At the end exactly what's going to happen. George Kirk has to die, and he sacrifices himself to save everybody else. In many ways, it's the best 11 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's really good. Yep. They named a whole universe after it.
Yeah, I guess they did. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yep.
I look at the fact that the shows we've lost in the last 12 months, whether it's Discovery or Lower Decks or Prodigy, because it doesn't look like there's going to be a season 3, or if we extend it out to 24 months, Picard. A lot of the shows that we've seen debut during Kurtzman's reign are gone, leaving Strange New Worlds and a show that is yet to premiere that nobody asked for.
Right. Yep. You mentioned it a minute ago, and I didn't bring it. I neglected to bring it before. Another amazingly step on your dick moment is canceling Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Lower Decks. Granted, there are probably some people that are not going to grasp onto it as much just because of the fact that it's animated, which is a stupid reason, or the fact that it's a comedy, which is a stupid reason. They are fantastic stories. They are fantastic Star Trek stories. And I think the popularity of Lower Decks was higher than any other current modern Trek show out there. I think. I'm not positive. I don't have the numbers. But just by looking at social media and seeing the excitement when people were talking about Lower Decks, it was one of the best things going. And you said it. It was not expensive to make in terms of television. People loved it, and you killed it. 2 years earlier than other Star Trek series. It should have easily gone at least 7 years, because I'm sure McMahon and his crew had stories up the wazoo that they still wanted to tell.
I look at the fact that shows like Lower Decks got us through the pandemic as a fandom. It premiered during a time when we were all really uncertain about what was going to happen in life. We're all kind of sequestered in our houses, cut off from, friends and conventions and people we love seeing once a year. And all of a sudden, this bright spot that makes us laugh during the darkest of times, comes onto the scene, and it was hard to not fall in love with it for that reason. And to have it canceled simply just because it's run 5 years is just seems how many seasons of Rick and Morty have there been?
Exactly.
How many seasons of The Simpsons and
Simpsons.
Family Guy and American Dad? American Dad is about to have its 20th season,
Mhm.
and I haven't I don't think I've watched it one time.
Yeah, I've never seen a single episode.
You know, I think that, or, you know, you look at live action shows, like Amazon had Bosch, which ran for 7 seasons, and
Yeah.
then they flipped the show on its ear and ran it for 4 more as Bosch Legacy. You know, it's 11 seasons out of one cast of characters or one set of characters. You tell me that they can't make Strange New Worlds go for 75 episodes or 80 episodes? It's a bunch of bullshit.
Throw up Jason's comment that he just put in the chat, dude, because I want to comment on what he just said.
This one?
Right there. And I'll tell you what, if Strange New Worlds does suffer that same fate, that will tell you exactly where the problem is with the Star Trek upper echelon right now. Because if Kurtzman decides to kill this show, which is immensely popular and was born out of the fact that it was over the top popular when Pike and crew showed up in Discovery season 2, if then all of a sudden it gets killed at the height of its popularity, then we know that where the problem lies. I mean, it's that simple.
Well, and part of the decision is Kurtzman's, and I'm sure part of it is the network. Paramount. My bad. The streaming service. I'm
The
sure that
upper
they have
echelon.
more of a say than he does.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that he has a stake in it.
Yeah.
But you know, it costs a lot to produce live television. That cost only gets bigger and bigger and bigger with every passing season. And in today's television landscape, you could produce a movie for what it costs to do a season of some of these shows. A really great movie. But the problem is they're not making movies. The problem is they're not making anything that people want to watch, you know, on Paramount Plus other than Star Trek and Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And that's really about it. It has some other great shows. Lioness is great. Some of the Yellowstone spinoffs are fine, but let's spend a little less money on some of the crap they're putting out and make Star Trek.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I'm saying that we'll know that if Strange New World is canceled, then we'll know where Kurtzman stands. I'm going to walk that back a little bit because you are right, and I know that I think to me just said something similar. We're seeing a lot of they don't care about Star Trek coming from a lot of the executives at Paramount. So that's I think that's part of it. I think that if they were to cancel Strange New World, he's not full to blame, but he is high enough in the hierarchy of what's going on to really put his foot down and make a difference and fight for it like fans have done for generations, starting with the end of season 2 of TOS.
Alex Kurtzman has juice in Hollywood. I mean, the man is a bona fide A-lister. If he really believed in a project enough and was willing to even make some concessions on the back end, they would give him more of what he wanted.
Yeah.
I think this is him kind of, giving along to get along in some semblance. Do I know? No, I don't. I really don't. This is all conjecture from a fan, but if you look at the dominoes that have fallen so far, that's really the only conclusion I can come to.
Yeah.
You know, I used to believe that, in the last 7 years, the state of Star Trek was fantastic. You said many times on Trek Geeks, there has been no better time to be a fan because of all the Star Trek we're getting. It's still a great time to be a fan, but now it's about loving the stuff that we've gotten and keeping it alive. Because we did it with TOS, we did it with TNG, we still do it with Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise because of how much we love those characters and stories. And that's going to have to be what gets us through the next, dark period or the fallow time or the time with no new Star Trek, because it's all we're going to have.
It makes me think of what the future is going to be like after the next lull, because we don't know what entertainment's going to be like because it's evolved so much just over the course of when Enterprise was the last Star Trek that we had for a while. We've got streaming services now, and we've got, home, you can get everything instantly in gigantic IMAX theaters and this, that, and the other thing. What's next? So Star Trek lulls for a decade. what's it going to be like? I mean, we got virtual reality stuff all over the place now. So what's it going to be like once that lull inevitably happens, because it will happen again? What's it going to be like when it picks up again later down the road? And will we even be here to see it?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm going to go, well, when we talked about, Star Trek passed us by a few weeks ago, I talked about the fact of how I've been watching, TOS almost exclusively these days.
Mm-hmm.
Will that turn into TNG at some point? I'm sure it will. And then DS9, and then I'm sure Voyager, and then I'm sure every other show. Simply just because if that's all I have to watch, I'm going to consume it, and I'm going to consume it all.
Right.
Because
exactly. Yes.
I can, because it keeps me going as a fan.
Yes. Yep. And we've talked about it before. It doesn't matter if it's bad. I mean, I will never watch Section 31 again, probably, but it is still Star Trek. So there is that aspect of it, as much as they try to make it Star Trek, that I hang on to. They will, whenever there is Star Trek that's going to come out, I'm trepidatious about Starfleet Academy. I've talked about it several times. I'm not really sure, because of the decision to do it in the time that they're doing it, the time frame. I'm not sure if I'm going to want that and if I'm going to like it, but I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to watch every other thing that comes out that's Star Trek down the road, because it's Star Trek. So it's not going to die.
No, and it can't. I mean, well, what is that quote from Star Trek 2? He's really not dead as long as we remember him. Star Trek will never die, because we will always remember it and watch it and love it, as if it were brand new today, because it's a part of our DNA. It's a part of who we are. Right. Star Trek isn't really dying, because we, the fans who love it and live it, aren't going to let it.
Right.
And I think that's really the takeaway tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of whether Alex Kurtzman stays or goes, just buy that physical media. We talk about it with 5-Year Mission in the podcast. Amen. Well, mine's only seeing my Blu-ray player long enough to burn it to my Plex server at home. But that's another story.
Yeah.
Wait. All right. There's always one. Scout 3. I missed the first 2 Scouts. I'm really sorry about that. I heard they were great. Grow up, have some critical thinking, stop pandering to subpar creatives, let it die. So the gatekeepers have arrived. Congratulations. We're so glad you found Thursday Night Geeks. It sounds like you've heard the last 2 minutes and nothing more. Everything about this episode has been critical thinking, and the fact that you want to let it die tells me enough about how much you love Star Trek or your fandom. If that's what you're gonna feel is the case for Star Trek, or that we're pandering, then you're in the wrong place, pal. Scout 3 is just a clown. Let's put it that way.
I don't even have to say anything.
And yes, just tuned in. That's obvious. That is obvious.
You know what? I didn't think I was going to laugh tonight with this topic, but yep. That's unbelievable. There we go.
It's great when the chodes come out in force. And for those of you who don't know what chode is, and I'm sure Scout 3 is one of them, that's CHODE. Google it. Yeah, Star Trek, as long as Star Trek is in the hands of fans, it's really not going to matter.
And you know what? I'm sorry, Bill. I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Now it's sticking in my craw. Why would we just want to let it die? We have proof from the fantastic writing that has gone on in several seasons of these new shows, from Bowie and Erica to Mike McMahon to countless others who have put real good stuff out there because of the genius of the writer's room and the people that come up with these unbelievable stories that I couldn't fricking try to think up in 1/1,000,000th of a brain cell, because compared to what they do. Why would we want that to die? What?
Yeah.
Why is that I mean, I go back to the original quote. What is, I don't get it. I just don't understand that thinking.
Well, because they think that Kurtzman is ruining Star Trek, and the best way to get Kurtzman out of there is to let him die.
Doom talk, because that's pretty much what it sounds like. I mean, it's just, come on. I said it before. We have stood up for Kurtzman when the things that are going on were good, because he has done good things for Star Trek. I don't care if you agree or disagree. That's just a fact. And now we are very critical of him because of stuff that is going on. There's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't mean that Star Trek has to die. And for that kind of comment, just is absolute BS.
Well, Scout 3 has been banned and their comments were removed. I put him in timeout and it automatically banned him. So not a loss. Not a loss. Scout 3, if you're still watching, kiss my ass. That's what it comes down to. You're kind of
just kidding, no, man.
No, because he's a super fan and is defending Star Trek in his mind. So the state of Star Trek, it's, as long as it's with us, it's great. And that's what we have to remember.
I like that.
Dan, coming up.
The
weekend after this, Trek Talks 4. Saturday, April 5th, First Contact Day 2025. Event starting at 9:45 a.m. Pacific, with the pregame featuring the one, the only, the amazing Sci-Fi Sisters. They're going to break down the show for you at 9:45, and we can't wait. It's going to be an amazing time. We hope to raise a lot of money for the Hollywood Food Coalition. Again, for the 4th year in a row. And we hope you all join us.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. It's actually weird to think that it would have been a couple of months ago, but now it's only a week away. And then we get to do it all again. No, there's been no announcement about that
yet. And then, Dan, we have some special episodes coming up in the next, in the weeks ahead. And I'm so excited about this one. Coming up Thursday, April 10th, this woman is sunshine personified. She is amazing. Robin Curtis, who played Saavik in Star Trek 3 and 4, is going to join us for a very special Thursday Night Geeks to talk about being Saavik and life as somebody who's participated in Star Trek. She is so joyful and it's infectious, and we can't wait to have that conversation with her. And then, Dan, coming up the week after that, it's going to be a full screen, because we're going to have Armin Shimmerman, Kitty Swink, Jonathan Frakes, John Billingsley, TNG's first return guest, and Juan Carlos Cotto, Manny's brother, all talking about pancreatic cancer and their Purple Strides fundraiser in an episode we're calling Trekking Toward Hope. They will all be here on one night before their Purple Strides walk, and we can't wait, because it's going to be amazing.
Just take our two ugly mugs off and keep the rest of those beautiful people on screen the whole episode. I think that's the way to do it.
That's really what it comes down to. I mean, that is an all-star lineup, and it doesn't get much better than that, especially for these two jerks.
Yeah, it really is. I'll tell you what, I had a chance to meet Robin Curtis at STLV last year at Starbucks, when they had this great new software that they put in place, and we had like 150 people waiting for their coffee one morning. I got to talk to her. Wonderful, beautiful human being. I can't wait to have her on the show. And of course, that great lineup to talk about a very personal cause with pancreatic cancer research and everything, with so many wonderful people. It's going to be we got Trek Talks 4, just great lineup, and I could not be happier about the upcoming next few weeks.
Next week, we guarantee there will be no Scout the Third. Nor will there be Scouts 1, 2, or 4. We just want to throw that out there. But this marks the end of another episode of Thursday Night Geeks. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being part of the discussion, and for sharing your love of this thing that we love all so much. Until next week, we do hope you all live long and prosper. And Dan, have a great week, buddy. I'll talk to you next Thursday.
All right. Sounds good. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Always a great time.
Peace out.